You know, when you think about suicide, it's just so much to talk about as it relates to suicide. Let's talk about methodology. How different people do suicide in different ways. Let's talk about that. I'm gonna let the professional talk.
Well, the first thing you want to do is define, or there's different types. Suicide is unfortunately not even just harming yourself, but ending your life. Then there's suicide attempt. Suicide attempt is harming yourself, but you don't end your life. And then suicide ideation is when you have thoughts of suicide. So, now to answer your question, the idea of how people unfortunately are thinking about committing suicide or actually doing it or attempting to do it. Digestion or overdosing of pills, hanging,
Mm.
unfortunately jumping, violently shooting themselves. It's something you don't really think about, but people are doing it. Maybe sometimes they're driving in a car and then they hit the median or they go over the meridian or they hit a building or whatever. Some people get out their car and walk in incoming traffic, drowning, parking their car in a certain place and jumping over one of our famous buildings, or maybe jumping over a bridge.
Mm.
These are the things. There was a study that was done even with black women. Sometimes black women, especially teenagers, tend to attempt. Maybe they'll cut themselves, or they'll cut themselves in a certain way so they'll bleed. What needs to understand is just because someone's cutting themselves doesn't mean they want to commit suicide. The key thing is this: they're in so much pain, they think by seeing blood, by feeling it makes them feel good. And if you notice, sometimes they'll even take the time and write different words on their arm. If they really want to commit, they'll maybe slit the appropriate rinse, maybe get in water, slit their neck, or they'll know certain veins or the jugular to really die or whatever. Unfortunately, males are a little bit more violent. They don't have a problem having access to a gun. They don't have a problem hanging themselves. Sometimes they overdose. Sometimes they'll jump off a bridge. I want to mention, which has been noted in the news, Miss USA, Chelsea Crystal, forgive me, Miss USA 2019. She looked like she had everything going for her. She won Miss USA. She was an attorney in the southern states. She had an MBA. And most recent, she was a celebrity correspondent. Beautiful, vivacious, articulate. But then on January 30th, she left a note. Not even a note. She put on an Instagram page, may today bring peace and joy. And in no time, she lived in a high-rise building in New York City. She lived on the 9th. Allegedly, she went to the 29th and she jumped to her death. And you look at that and you're saying, what were the signs? Why this occur? But using that example to say, unfortunately, sometimes it's not just men are doing it violent. Women, if they really want to do it, in this case, you see how violent they were. They jumped over the building.
Mm. Man, I mean, you talked about method and methodology as it relates to suicide. I mean, and it seemed like it. And I've had an opportunity to be with a person like the day before. And it seemed like it was just peace. Wasn't no problems. It was just peace. And you would wonder, how could they walk with so much of peace in their face, in their mind, on their job, and then the very next day do suicide. And a lot of them will leave a letter and say, either I'm sorry or I was I read one of the, I mean, you read some of the letters or one of the letters that the people might leave and they're saying bye and I couldn't take it no more. I was tired of this or tired of that. And they felt that that was just the way to solve the problems.